Hello, in this video we'll learn how to set up consent-based tracking on your Go High Level website using Cookifi and Google Tag Manager. First of all, log in to your Cookifi dashboard. If you do not have an account yet, make sure to create one by clicking on this Don't Have an Account button and filling out this sign up form. Once you've logged in, you'll land on the Properties section. Remember that one domain is one Cookifi property. To create a new property, click Add in the top right corner if you haven't done so already. Fill out all the required details like the property name and domain. Click Create. Open your new property by clicking on it. In the General Settings section, you'll find the integration script. Click the Google icon to generate the default consent command for Google Consent Mode version 2. Switch to the query string option, which is required for Go High Level websites. If you skip this, the banner will not load. Copy the generated script. Next, log in to your Go High Level account and open your website. Go to Settings and find Head Tracking Code section. Paste the Cookifi script at the very top above your Google Tag Manager code. Save your changes to make the banner load site-wide. Now, repeat this step for each of your funnels. To verify that the cookie banner is now displaying correctly, click on this icon to view the page. You can style your banner in Cookifi settings to match your brand colors and feel. Navigate to Cookifi theme settings and you can change the border radius, the colors, and you can even add your own logo here that will appear in the top left corner of the cookie banner. Go back to your site to see the changes go live automatically. While Cookifi handles consent detection and signaling behind the scenes, to actually control which tags fire based on consent, you need to configure your Google Tag Manager properly. Here is how. In a nutshell, we'll first apply basic mode for non-Google tags. Secondly, choose between basic and advanced mode for Google tags. How? By configuring the triggers and consent settings inside Google Tag Manager. The most effective way to manage tracking based on consent is to unify your tracking setup by consolidating all tracking scripts into one place, like Google Tag Manager. You can precisely control execution of the scripts based on your visitors' consent choices. This ensures only the right tags fire at the right time based on the user's consent. As briefly mentioned, there are two Google Consent Modes: Basic Mode and Advanced Mode. The Basic Mode is simple. Tags fire only after consent is granted. Setup is straightforward using Google Tag Manager triggers that check consent categories. All non-Google tags, for example Meta, TikTok or LinkedIn, must follow the principles of Basic Mode. Advanced Mode, on the other hand, is only available to Google tags, for example Google Analytics or Google Ads. And in this mode, tags fire even before consent but behave differently. So if consent is denied or unknown, only anonymous cookieless pings are sent. When consent is granted, full tracking resumes automatically. This mode offers more data, but carries higher GDPR risk. If unsure or want to be on the safer side, stick to basic mode even for Google tags. For your Google tags, you must choose one mode and apply it consistently across all Google tags. And that's enough of theory. Let me jump back into Google Tag Manager and show you a real-world example. As you'll notice, there's 3 different tags in this container. One for Google Analytics, one for Google Ads, and one for Meta Ads. I'm also going to open Cookifi documentation and then update your tracking setup under the guides. I'm going to click on this GTM implementation and go back to Google Tag Manager. So we'll start with non-Google tags first. So in our case, that's only the Meta page view tag. As we've mentioned, the non-Google tags must follow the principles of basic mode. So let me go back to this guide and look for basic mode. Okay, and as I mentioned, that meta tag is a page view tag. So it is a page view based tag and non-Google. If you are also measuring your thank you page view and relying on, for example, this URL in your triggers, that would also be considered a page view based tag. Okay, so let me go back, and here in the documentation it shows you 2 places where you actually need to make changes. Okay, so the first one is tag and consent settings, and the second one is trigger. So as you can see, for a page view based tag, which is non-Google, so Meta for example, the tag needs to be set to require additional consent to fire. Since this is Meta tag, which is a marketing tag, we'll need to configure it to require ad storage consent. And it will also require a special custom event trigger. So let me jump back to Google Tag Manager to configure this. First of all, go to admin, container settings, and enable consent overview. Then go back to workspace, tags, and you will see this new shield icon button here. Select the Meta page view tag and click this shield icon again. And following the documentation of Cookifi, we need to set this to require additional consent for tag to fire, and we'll add the ad_storage since this is a marketing or ad related tag. Click save. Now we still need to change the trigger. Go to triggers, create a new custom event trigger, and copy the event name from the Cookifi documentation and paste it here exactly as is. You can name the trigger CE, which stands for custom event, and paste the name here again and click save. Now go back to tags, and for your meta tag, make sure to replace the initialization all pages trigger with this newly created Cookifi consent update trigger and click save. And that's it for your meta page view tag. For your Google tags, as I've mentioned, you need to decide between advanced or basic mode. If you were to apply basic mode, you would go back to this Cookifi documentation, GTM implementation and basic mode, and then you would navigate to page view based Google tags here, and you would follow the instructions here. the process is very similar to what we've done for the non-Google page view based tag. So let me show you that really quickly. Let's start with the Google Analytics tag, and since it's analytics related, we'll add the analytics storage here and click save. And finally, let's modify the Google Ads tag, which is a marketing or ad related tag, so we'll add ad storage and save. And we'll also replace their initial triggers with Cookifi consent update. And you're done. This setup contains basic mode for meta page view, which is mandatory, and then also basic mode for your Google tags. But as I mentioned, you could also opt for advanced mode for your Google tags, and for those, if you go to advanced mode in the documentation, and these are all page view based Google tags, so for the tag we'll set up no additional consent is required, and for trigger we'll keep initialization all pages. So let me go back to Google Tag Manager and go here, select both Google tags this time and choose no additional consent required, which is in principle the same as not set. Click save. And now you can see that under the additional consent column there's none for both Google tags. And now let's change the triggers. Back to initialization all pages. And that is Google Advanced Mode for Google Tags implemented. Congratulations, you've just successfully implemented consent-based tracking using Cookifi and Google Tag Manager for your Go High Level site. If you want to dive deeper, be sure to check our documentation, which lives at docs.cookie.fi. And if you ever get stuck, feel free to reach out using either the support contact form directly within your property or via our Slack community, where we're always happy to help.